Ahmed had never liked old houses, but the cheap rent made the decision easy. The building stood at the end of a quiet street, its wooden walls worn by time and silence. While exploring the house on his first evening, he discovered a locked storage room filled with dust and broken furniture. In the far corner stood a tall wooden wardrobe covered in strange carved symbols he couldn't understand. Curiosity pulled him closer. The moment he touched the handle, a freezing chill ran through his fingers. The wardrobe door slowly opened with a long creak, releasing a wave of cold air strong enough to make the lights flicker. Inside, it looked empty, just darkness deeper than it should have been. That night, Ahmed woke to a faint sound. Creak, creak. The wardrobe door was moving on its own. Half asleep, he watched as it opened slightly, revealing pitch-black emptiness. Then he heard it, breathing. Slow, heavy, as if someone stood inside, watching him. He forced himself to check. Gathering courage, Ahmed walked toward it and pulled the door open wide. Nothing, only darkness. Feeling foolish, he closed it and returned to bed. The whispers began the next night. Soft voices called his name from inside the wardrobe. At first he thought it was imagination, but the sound grew clearer each hour. Ahmed, come closer. Unable to resist, he stepped forward and looked inside. For a brief second, he saw a long corridor stretching endlessly into shadow, and a tall figure standing far away. He slammed the door shut, breathing heavily. In the silence that followed, 3 knocks echoed from inside the wardrobe. Someone, or something, wanted to come out. The second night in the old house felt heavier than the first. Ahmed tried convincing himself that the strange sounds were only the result of exhaustion, yet an uneasy feeling followed him everywhere. The wardrobe remained closed in the corner of his room, but he couldn't stop staring at it, as if it were silently watching him back. Around midnight, a sharp creaking noise shattered the silence. Ahmed opened his eyes and froze. The wardrobe door was slowly opening by itself. No wind, no movement in the room, only that steady, painful creak echoing through the darkness. He sat up, his heartbeat racing. A cold mist began spreading across the floor, crawling toward his bed like living smoke. The temperature dropped so suddenly that his breath became visible in the air. Then he heard it again, breathing, slow and deep, coming from inside the wardrobe. Ahmed whispered, "Who's there?" But his voice trembled. The breathing stopped instantly, replaced by complete silence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the door opened wider. Inside was not the wooden interior he remembered. Darkness stretched unnaturally deep, swallowing the faint light of the room. Ahmed felt an invisible pull, a strange urge telling him to step closer. Against his better judgment, he stood and walked toward it. Each step felt heavier, as though the air itself resisted him. Just as he reached the wardrobe, a loud bang came from inside, like someone hitting the door from the other side. Ahmed jumped back in terror and slammed the wardrobe shut with all his strength. The breathing continued, now louder. And from behind the door, a whisper emerged, clearer than ever. "Don't close it. I'm still inside." Ahmed barely slept after the terrifying events of the previous night. The whisper from inside the wardrobe kept echoing in his mind. By morning, he convinced himself it had all been a nightmare caused by stress. Sunlight filled the room, making everything appear normal again, except for the wardrobe. Its door was slightly open. Ahmed was certain he had shut it tightly before going to bed. A cold uneasiness settled in his chest as he slowly approached it. The air around the wardrobe felt colder than the rest of the room, and faint scratch marks had appeared on the wooden surface, as if something inside had tried to claw its way out. Trying to ignore his fear, Ahmed pushed the door fully open. Darkness greeted him again, deeper and thicker than before. As he stared inside, a strange dizziness overcame him. The darkness seemed to move, stretching inward like a tunnel. Suddenly, his surroundings faded, and he found himself standing somewhere else. A long, narrow corridor extended endlessly ahead. The walls looked old and damp, covered with shadowy stains. Dim echoes of footsteps surrounded him, though he was alone. Far away, at the end of the corridor, stood a tall figure facing away from him. Ahmed tried to call out, but no sound came from his mouth. The figure slowly tilted its head, as if it had heard his thoughts. Fear surged through Ahmed's body, and in an instant, he felt himself falling backward. He woke up on his bedroom floor, gasping for air. The wardrobe stood closed again. Shaking, he noticed deep red scratches across his palms, fresh and burning. From inside the wardrobe came a soft, satisfied whisper. "Now you've seen my world." After the horrifying vision of the corridor, Ahmed tried to avoid the wardrobe completely. He pushed a chair in front of it and kept the room lights on all night, hoping normality would return. But the house no longer felt safe. Every corner seemed quieter than before, as if the walls themselves were listening. The next morning, Ahmed noticed something strange. His wristwatch was missing. He searched the entire room, checking under the bed, inside drawers, and even the bathroom, but it was nowhere to be found. Frustrated, he turned toward the wardrobe without meaning to. The door slowly creaked open on its own. A wave of cold air spread through the room again. With hesitation, Ahmed stepped closer and looked inside. His breath stopped. His missing watch lay neatly placed in the center of the wardrobe floor. Confused and shaken, he reached in and grabbed it. The moment his hand crossed the doorway, faint whispers surrounded him again. Multiple voices this time, overlapping and restless, speaking in words he couldn't fully understand. He quickly pulled his hand back and slammed the door shut. Throughout the day, more things began disappearing. A book, his phone charger, even a kitchen knife. Each time, Ahmed already knew where he would find them. And each time he opened the wardrobe, the objects appeared arranged carefully, almost deliberately, as if someone inside was trying to communicate. That night, unable to control his curiosity, Ahmed opened the wardrobe again. The items were no longer alone. Behind them, deep in the darkness, he saw a movement, something shifting slowly, retreating further inside, as if inviting him to follow. A soft whisper echoed out. "Bring me more, stay longer." Ahmed realized with growing terror that the wardrobe wasn't just haunted. It was collecting things and learning about him. Fear followed Ahmed everywhere now. The wardrobe had become the center of his thoughts, its presence impossible to ignore. Every missing object reappearing inside it felt like proof that something intelligent lived beyond that darkness. Sleep barely came to him anymore. Late one evening, while searching for answers, Ahmed explored the attic of the old house. Among dusty boxes and broken frames, he discovered a small locked chest. Inside it lay an old leather-bound diary covered in faded stains. The pages were fragile, filled with hurried handwriting belonging to the house's previous owner. As Ahmed read, his hands began to tremble. The diary described the wardrobe in terrifying detail. According to the writer, the wardrobe was not furniture but a doorway, a passage connected to another place that existed alongside their world. The previous owner wrote about hearing whispers, losing belongings, and seeing shadows move inside. The final entries became desperate warnings. Never open it fully. It learns from you. The longer it stays open, the stronger it becomes. Ahmed's heartbeat pounded as he flipped to the last page. The writing turned shaky and uneven. It doesn't just take objects, it takes presence. First your attention, then your time, and finally, you. A loud creak echoed from downstairs. The wardrobe. Ahmed rushed back to his room and froze at the doorway. The wardrobe stood wide open, wider than ever before. Cold mist poured out, spreading across the floor like fog escaping a cave. From inside came slow footsteps, not approaching, but waiting. The diary slipped from Ahmed's hands as a whisper emerged from the darkness, calm and patient. "You understand now, so come closer." Ahmed stood frozen at the entrance of his room, staring at the wardrobe. Cold mist rolled across the floor, wrapping around his feet like icy chains. The diary's warning echoed in his mind, yet he couldn't look away. Something inside the wardrobe was no longer hiding. The darkness shifted. Slowly, a tall shadow formed within the wardrobe's depth. It wasn't clear or solid, more like a human-shaped absence of light. The figure stood unnaturally still, its height nearly touching the top of the wardrobe frame. The air grew painfully cold, and the lights above Ahmed flickered violently. He tried stepping back, but his body felt heavy, as if the room itself resisted his movement. The shadow moved, not walking, but gliding forward slightly, stopping just at the edge of the wardrobe's opening. Ahmed noticed long, thin shapes stretching from it, arms that seemed too long, dissolving into darkness before fully forming. A deep sound filled the room, somewhere between breathing and whispering. "You open the way." Ahmed grabbed the diary from the floor and shouted, "Leave me alone." His voice trembled, but the shadow didn't retreat. Instead, the wardrobe doors began shaking softly, tapping against the wood as though something unseen pushed from behind. The temperature dropped further, frosting the edges of the mirror nearby. Ahmed's breath came out in sharp clouds. Then he noticed something horrifying. The shadow had no face, yet he felt its attention fixed entirely on him. The whisper returned, clearer and closer than ever. "You looked inside, now I can look back." Suddenly, the wardrobe doors slammed shut on their own. The mist vanished instantly, leaving the room silent again. But beneath the silence, Ahmed heard faint scratching from inside. Whatever lived there had finally revealed itself, and it knew him now. After witnessing the shadow inside the wardrobe, Ahmed knew he could no longer face it alone. Fear and confusion pushed him to call his closest friend, Bilal. Though Ahmed struggled to explain everything, the panic in his voice convinced Bilal to visit immediately. When Bilal arrived, the house felt unnaturally cold despite the warm afternoon outside. Ahmed showed him the diary, the scratch marks, and the wardrobe itself. Bilal laughed nervously, assuming it was an elaborate misunderstanding caused by stress and lack of sleep. "It's just an old cupboard," Bilal said, stepping closer. "You've scared yourself." Ahmed warned him not to touch it, but curiosity had already taken hold. Bilal grabbed the handle and slowly opened the wardrobe door. A freezing gust burst outward. The room lights flickered violently, and a deep humming sound filled the air. The darkness inside looked deeper than before, almost alive. Bilal leaned forward, trying to see inside clearly. "Do you hear that?" he asked. Ahmed heard nothing, until a faint, echoing whisper began calling from within. This time, the voice sounded welcoming, almost gentle. Suddenly, Bilal's expression changed. His eyes widened as if he saw something impossible. Before Ahmed could react, invisible force pulled Bilal forward. He screamed, grabbing the wardrobe frame, but his grip slipped as his body was dragged into the darkness. The wardrobe door slammed shut instantly. Silence. Ahmed rushed forward and yanked the door open again. Empty. No corridor. No shadow. No Bilal. Only darkness, and the faint echo of Bilal's scream fading far away, as if coming from an endless distance. Then, softly, a whisper emerged from inside. "One is with me now. You will not stay alone for long." Bilal's disappearance shattered Ahmed completely. The room felt heavier, filled with a silence that pressed against his ears. He searched the entire house again and again, calling Bilal's name, hoping it was some cruel trick. But deep inside, Ahmed already knew the truth. The wardrobe had taken him. For hours, Ahmed sat staring at the closed doors, afraid to open them, yet unable to look away. Occasionally, faint sounds came from within, distant footsteps, soft knocking, and once, what sounded like Bilal calling for help from far away. "Ahmed, don't leave me." The voice was weak and distorted, echoing like it traveled through a long tunnel. Panic overwhelmed him. Ignoring the diary's warning, Ahmed rushed forward and pulled the wardrobe open. The darkness swallowed the room's light instantly. This time, the corridor appeared clearly again, longer and more real than before. The air inside felt thick and cold, carrying faint echoes of whispers layered upon each other. Far down the corridor, Ahmed thought he saw movement, like someone struggling in the distance. "Bilal," he shouted. The figure seemed to react, but before Ahmed could step inside, the tall shadow appeared again between them. It blocked the path, stretching across the corridor walls like living darkness. The whispers grew louder, overlapping voices repeating the same words. "Come inside, come closer, stay with us." Ahmed felt an overwhelming pull dragging him forward. His feet moved slightly across the floor without his control. Just as he reached the wardrobe's edge, Bilal's scream echoed again, suddenly cut off. The corridor vanished. The wardrobe slammed shut violently, throwing Ahmed backward onto the floor. Breathing heavily, he realized something terrifying. The wardrobe wasn't just taking people. It was slowly convincing them to enter willingly. Ahmed had lost all sense of safety. The wardrobe's presence haunted every corner of the house. Even when he was in another room, he felt the cold air creeping toward him, like the darkness inside was searching. Nights became unbearable. Sleep brought only nightmares of endless corridors and faceless shadows. Determined to end the terror, Ahmed decided to confront the wardrobe once and for all. Armed with a small lantern and the old diary, he approached it. The door stood slightly ajar, moving subtly as if breathing. His hands shook, but he forced himself to grip the handle and pull it open. The darkness inside seemed thicker than ever. The corridor stretched endlessly, with shadows crawling along the walls. Ahmed could hear Bilal's faint voice calling from deep inside, begging for help. The shadow that had blocked him before now loomed closer, moving silently but purposefully, its faceless gaze fixed entirely on him. Ahmed remembered the diary's warnings. It learns from you. It feeds on attention. It grows stronger. He realized that fear alone would not defeat it. Summoning courage, he spoke aloud. I will not be taken. The shadow paused, almost as if confused, but the corridor itself seemed to resist him. Step by step, Ahmed moved forward, reaching toward the distant figure of Bilal. The shadows writhed like living smoke, trying to pull him back, whispering in layered voices. Stay, belong, join us. Each whisper clawed at his mind, making him question reality. Finally, he grabbed Bilal's arm and pulled him toward the wardrobe. The corridor shuddered violently, and the shadow hissed with a sound that made the walls vibrate. With one final heave, Ahmed stumbled backward out of the wardrobe, dragging Bilal with him. The doors slammed shut behind them, leaving only silence. Both were gasping for breath, hands shaking. But from inside the darkness, a faint whisper echoed. Next time, I will wait longer. Ahmed and Bilal sat on the floor, their bodies trembling, the room silent except for their ragged breaths. For a moment, it seemed the nightmare had ended. The wardrobe now stood closed, still and silent, almost ordinary. But Ahmed knew better. The diary's warnings still echoed in his mind. The wardrobe was not a piece of furniture. It was a living gateway, patient and hungry. The next morning, Ahmed tried to leave the house, hoping daylight would break the hold the wardrobe had over him. Yet, every step he took, he felt a cold draft brushing against him, as if the wardrobe's presence followed. Even when he glanced away, a faint shadow lingered at the corner of his vision. Curiosity, or perhaps malice, seemed to pulse from the closed doors. Ahmed felt drawn toward it again. Despite every instinct screaming to stay away, he approached. The handle rattled slightly in his grip, cold to the touch. He froze. A whisper emerged from inside, soft but distinct. Come back, we're waiting. Ahmed stumbled backward, heart pounding. Suddenly, the wardrobe door slowly creaked open on its own. Darkness spilled into the room like a living thing, thick and suffocating. He could barely see, but he felt long, cold fingers brush against his arm, pulling ever so slightly. Then a voice, distorted and layered with countless echoes, spoke clearly. Next time, you will not resist. Ahmed realized the truth. The wardrobe did not merely take. It waited. It learned. And it would return for him, and anyone else who dared enter its room. The final scene leaves the house, quiet once again. The wardrobe stands closed, ordinary yet ominous. But a faint, almost imperceptible tapping can be heard from inside, as if whatever lives there is alive, patient, and hungry, waiting for the next visitor.